All right, I'm now joined by Ross Jackson from Locked On Saints. Ross, another draft come and gone, and a big story, the big men. Since Jeff Ireland got here in 2016, the Saints have loved their boys in the trenches. That continued this year.
Yeah, absolutely. The Saints stayed true to what it is that they've been doing for quite a while. 3 of their top 4 selections in this year's draft, either on the defensive line or the offensive line. And I love that they went early on the defensive line. That was a big need for them, something that they really needed to be able to address. They start off with Bryan Bresee to get that interior kind of fixed up after the sort of exodus of players that they lost at that position. Add Isaiah Foskey, the big athletic edge rusher that's going to be able to help them in a ton of different ways. And then just a couple of picks later, going with Nick Saldiveri and trading up to go and get him at the top of the 3rd day to bring him in, versatile 5 sort of line, offensive line, or position versatility in terms of the way that he'll be able to be utilized. So very exciting in terms of them doing what it is that they do and sticking to the script.
You just mentioned the versatility on the offensive side of the ball. On defense, Bresee kind of brings that same type of versatility. He can shift up and down. How important is that for this defensive line that you mentioned has so many holes and that the depth isn't there right now?
Yeah, no, it's massive for them. And Dennis Allen even kind of mentioned that in his post day 1 press conference, where he mentioned that the versatility is absolutely there for him. Mentioned all the different places where he plays, and the basic idea here is that as a defensive lineman in the New Orleans Saints system, you're not only lining up at different places on the line, you're lining up with different players. There's everybody's rotating. Sometimes it looks like a hockey team. You see 4 players run off, 4 players run on. And so the ability to be able to shift, to be able to attack from different alignments, be able to attack from different angles is a must in order to be in this line. And Bryan Bresee absolutely brings that versatility with him to the NFL.
All right, and you did a deep dive on our 3rd round draft pick, the TCU running back. Talk about what strengths he brings to this team, and maybe who could you compare him to that's already in the NFL or someone that we know?
Yeah, Kendre Miller, the running back out of TCU, love this kid, and he is somebody that has long speed, breakaway speed, but he's also got patience. So he's not one of those guys that's a home run hitter because he's impatient and is going to try to get to the hole as quickly as he can. He lets everything develop in front of him, utilizes his vision, and trusts his instincts, and that worked out to the tune of 17 touchdowns, 1,399 rushing yards last year. And look, he didn't get to do any of the sort of athletic testing over the course of the offseason because he had the right knee issue that kept him out of the national championship game, the combine, pro days, things like that. But when you watch him on tape, you can see the athleticism, the agility, the speed that's all there. We asked him to kind of give us a little bit about the guys that maybe he compares himself to in the NFL. He mentioned somebody that they're very familiar with here, Alvin Kamara, when it comes to his balance. He's got really great contact balance. Size 14 shoe. He says that helps him stay upright because he's got the big feet to land on and the big platforms. But then he also mentioned Jonathan Taylor, the Indianapolis Colts running back, and I think that's a good spot in terms of comparing him because of all the different ways that he can attack. He can win between the tackles, he can get around to the perimeter, and he also, even though he hasn't been asked to do it a ton, only 26 catches while he was at TCU, can be a good receiver out of the backfield, has really good hands.
Yeah, and then in the 4th round, anytime you take a quarterback in the draft, no matter what, it's a big deal. It's a talking point. So Jake Haener out of Fresno State. We saw him at the Senior Bowl. Obviously, the Saints assistants like him. What do you think he brings to this team? And obviously, he's a developmental guy, but he's going to be behind another Fresno State quarterback in Derek Carr and then in Jameis Winston.
Yeah, and look, he's got Derek Carr is his mentor. Drew Brees is his favorite quarterback. He wore number 9 at Fresno State there. He was coached by both Ronald Curry, New Orleans Saints passing game coordinator and quarterbacks coach. He was the offensive coordinator down in Mobile. DJ Williams, who's here as an offensive assistant, he was also there as a quarterbacks coach in Mobile. So all the signs were kind of pointing to, hey, this is a guy that could potentially end up in New Orleans, and now here he is. I think that, we spoke to Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Senior Bowl, and I agree with him. I think one of the things that you look at when it comes to Jake Haener, leadership, his ability to be accurate, his ability to change his arm angles, move so that he can find those open throwing windows, which you have to do when you're a quarterback his size. He, at worst, is a fantastic backup for you in the long run, but at best, I don't want to get too lengthy here, but I think that one of the things that you look at from him is that if you needed to rely on him for a couple of games, he could probably win you those games if he had to come in.
Yeah, and backup quarterbacks have been huge in the Saints story the last few years, and like you said, the Saints assistants really like him after his Senior Bowl experience. Now maybe let's go to a position that they didn't address that we all in the media might thought they would have. tight end, and they even gave away a tight end, trading Adam Troutman. I mean, how thin are they there right now, and do you feel like that's something they need to address in free agency?
Yeah, we thought that they were going to address that by bringing a guy in. They addressed it the opposite way. Now, they moved up to go and get a great wide receiver in A.T. Perry, who we'll discuss here in a moment. But when it comes down to tight end, look, you've got your number one guy in Juwan Johnson, right? Juwan Johnson, a wide receiver to tight end convert. The Saints bring him back on a second deal this offseason. He showed up. We talked to him here at the facility. Looked even bigger than he did last year.
Good to know.
So he looks like he's ready to go. And he's a fantastic receiver for you. He threatens the seam. He gives you a close to the line of scrimmage type of attack and threat for your quarterback in Derek Carr, and he's a big target to be able to hit. So I think that you have all that. You've got the pass blocking and the run blocking with him as well as he continues to develop there. So Juwan Johnson, to me, is your clear-cut tight end one. But look, you've still got a good room here in terms of players that could develop into larger stakeholders within the position, including a guy that was an undrafted free agent last year out of Pittsburgh, Lucas Krull, who came in and was a big-time athletic tight end who's a big target. I mean, he checks all kind of similar boxes. But I do think bringing in a veteran tight end is going to be a must for the New Orleans Saints. I would look out for some guys that they might be familiar with. Cameron Brate, who spent a lot of his career over across the division with Tampa Bay. And then, of course, we'll see how everything continues to kind of progress when it comes to Foster Moreau, the former Jesuit high school player, LSU, and, of course, former teammate of Derek Carr's.
Yeah, I think lastly, are there any surprises or picks that maybe we haven't talked about that you're really high on that you really like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of the other couple of guys that they took in day 3 as well. And when it comes down to Jordan Howden, the safety out of Minnesota, as well as A.T. Perry, the wide receiver out of Wake Forest, I thought A.T. Perry was the guy that was going to go maybe even as high as the 3rd round, but probably saw him a little bit more in the 4th or 5th round. That trade that sent Adam Troutman back to Sean Payton over with the Denver Broncos ends up bringing in A.T. Perry, 6'3", 200 pounds, 198, but we'll just say 200 pounds, 4.47 speed, and he's somebody that had over 2,600 receiving yards the last 2 seasons, 26 receiving touchdowns. I just think that he is one of those guys that is so remarkable in terms of his ability to be able to threaten on the outside, but he wants to play in the slot too, so he has a want for that versatility. So I think he's somebody just to keep an eye out on as a developmental prospect over the course of the next couple of years, because if he hits, he'll hit. And then on the opposite side of that, when it comes to the defensive side, bringing in the safety in Jordan Howden, he's a guy that's played over 200 snaps in each of the last 3 years in the slot and has over 500 snaps in his career playing special teams. He's got a role here in New Orleans, especially backing up Bradley Roby and then, of course, contributing in special teams. I think both of those guys can be producers at the level that they're utilized in their rookie seasons.
Sounds like you like a lot of these guys. If you had to give the draft a grade, overall, the Saints, how do you think they did?
Yeah, I would probably give this one, let's start with a solid B for now. I'm not going to get too over the top, right? We should temper expectations for day 3 guys until we see how it all works out and what opportunities they get. But I think that this is a solid draft for them. The Saints went in with needs at running back, on the offensive line, on the defensive line, shoring up depth at wide receiver, maybe helping themselves out at the nickel spot, and they kind of did all of those things. Want to see what they're going to do next at tight end. Curious to see what they'll do at linebacker as well. It's a spot that they haven't addressed with the exception of bringing back Ty Summers, who's a core special teamer for them, but losing Caden Ellis and the 7 sacks that went to Atlanta with them from last year, that's a big deal. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do at the second level of the defense.
Yeah, all right. Ross Jackson, Locked On Saints, thank you. Great insight as always.